Welcome to the high school football playoff preview edition of TV2 Sports Talk on DMG Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable. I'm WJER Radio Sports Director Bill Morgan, and coming up on this week's show, we'll take a look at area teams headed for the postseason, including New Philadelphia, along with Indian Valley, Sandy Valley, and Ridgewood. And later on during the show, I'll be joined by sports writers Jim Haynes and Darren Lautenschlager from the Times Reporter and WJER's Rob Brinley from our Domino's Football Friday Night crew. You've got the best television coverage of high school sports all throughout the course of the athletic year right here on TV2, including coming up late Friday night, New Philadelphia's playoff game as they head to Akron to take on the Hoban Knights. All the play-by-play television coverage of that game with TV2. Check out WJERTV2.com for complete replay details on the Quakers and Akron Hoban. Coming up as this week's show continues, I'll sit down with Darren Lautenschlager to talk about the Quakers, how they got to the Division III playoffs, and what they'll have to do to advance. That's next when TV2 Sports Talk continues.
I think the hands-on aspect is going to give you an opportunity to explore, find out what you're good at, what you like, and you're not going to have mountains of debt. What you're going to have is a marketable skill that even if you don't love it, you can use that to pay to go on to college and get that degree. And we've got a number of students that do that. They're very mature. I think we're a great hands-on exploration base.
Woods Tall Timber Resort is a vacation that's close to home. The 7-acre lake is the focal point of the resort with camping May through October. Splash away your summer days at the beach and in the fall enjoy brilliant colors from your own private cottage. Whether you enjoy primitive camping or the amenities of home, Woods Tall Timber Resort has it all. Luxurious cottages feature equipped kitchens, a full bathroom, and room for 8 guests. The resort includes a clubhouse, concession stand, bait shop, shower house, and laundromat, and the recreation never ends. Enjoy summer fun on water slides, inflatable trampolines, paddle boats, and electric boats, plus house rentals, fishing, game room, playground, woodpecker par 3 golf, and miniature golf, and of course hiking trails. And now Woods Tall Timber Resort has zip lines. It's the best value around for this exciting way to fly. Rides start at just $15. Small zips and kiddie zips are also available, and the Lake House Lodge can accommodate your party, reception, reunion, or event. Check out all of the fun online at woodstalltimberlake.com.
TV2 Sports Talk this week, taking a look at the high school football playoffs. The pairings released this past weekend by the OHSAA. Happy to be joined by Darren Lautenschlager, sort of for all intents and purposes, the New Philadelphia beat writer for the Times Reporter. Darren, welcome to the show. And boy, when you talk about a dramatic way to finish the season, certainly New Philadelphia did that this past Friday night with an impressive win over arch rival Dover.
My oh my, didn't they ever. I didn't expect that type of a beatdown in that type of a rivalry game. I expected New Philadelphia to perform very well. I expected them to win, to be honest with you, because I felt they were stronger up front. Not only were they stronger up front, they really proved it. They went out and they just knocked Dover around on both sides of the ball.
And when you talk about, I guess, what they did offensively, although Tyler Carter certainly dominated the show in the statistical department, the Quakers were able to get it done on the ground with T. Carter and through the air with Logan Bidekoffer.
Yeah, it was a nice mix in the game plan. They set up the run. There was no doubt about it. And with that run, they were able to hit big plays on the pass because they sucked the Dover defenders in and hit them over the top.
Talking New Philadelphia Quaker football, the Quakers, one of a number of teams from our area, headed into the postseason. On Friday night, they'll be up at Akron Hoban to take on the 9-1 Knights. Akron Hoban, the top seed in the region. New Philadelphia checking in at number 8. And Darren, I guess one of the crazy things after the win over Dover was, despite the fact that you got the big win because Canfield upset Poland Seminary, there were some shaky moments in Quaker camp about whether or not they'd actually get in.
Yeah, I think we were all biting our fingernails a little bit there. You finish out 8-2, you win 7 in a row, and you think you're in pretty good shape, and then all of a sudden the scores start rolling in, and you wonder, are we in? Are we out? What's going to happen? And boy, it would be a shame for this group of kids with what they've accomplished since week 3 to be left at home.
Darren, while we talk about names that we hear all the time from your articles and coverage in the paper, the names on the radio and here on TV2, guys like Tyler Carter and Braden Young and Logan Bittercoffer. Let's flip and talk a little bit about that Quaker defense. They've been outstanding really since they picked up that win at Talmadge that began the 7-game winning streak.
Yeah, you know, I think a big key to their season is that defense. They've only given up, since that game against Perry in week 3, 43 points. And 20 of those, Bill, came against Cambridge. One was a fumble return, and 2 were against the second team. So they've really only given up about 23 points in that many weeks. Amazing effort. They're led there in the middle, all those tackles from Blake Bolin, the junior linebacker. Up front, you've got great efforts from kids like Skylar Apostle, Joe Delator. On the ends, you've got Logan Ford. Seth Parker's been playing well on the end coming in. Just an outstanding effort from this group right now.
And Darren, one of the guys' names that sometimes we get to call a lot defensively when the Quakers are on the defense, but sometimes you don't hear his names a lot. When I was scanning my stats for the Dover game, Tucker Hill has had a nice year. Second on the team in tackles and right up there in sacks as well.
Yeah, Tucker Hill leads the team in sacks. He has quietly been kind of that linchpin, the glue for them. He gets great penetration off the end. He funnels plays, running plays that are trying to go outside, back inside for the guys to get big tackle numbers. But then you look up at the end of the day and he's got 5, 6 tackles. He's made maybe knocked a pass down. He's played very well.
And Darren, when we explore this 2015 edition of Matt Dennison's team, certainly there's some family blood on this team. We talk about Tucker Hill, his older brother, Dakota Hill, a very, very good linebacker for New Philadelphia a couple of years back. And, oh, by the way, that Tyler Carter guy, maybe you've heard of his brother, Jamal Johnson.
Yeah. In fact, you know, the coaches were joking with Jamal at the end of the Dover game the other night because Jamal was there. And, of course, T. Carter had 200 yards rushing, and they looked at Jamal, and I heard a couple of them say, hey, you didn't even come close to 200 yards rushing against Dover, did you?
When you talk about, though, the success that New Philadelphia has had in recent years and during the Matt Dennison campaign, Darren, he is the winningest coach in the history of Quaker football that went over Dover on Friday night. His 100th career win at New Philadelphia. He topped that 100 mark a while back in counting in his wins at Claymont. Certainly, sometimes I think that what Matt's accomplished at the program flies a little bit under the radar. When I got here in the 2000 season, New Philadelphia was sort of a consistently 500 club, never getting into the playoffs, losing to smaller schools in the ECOL like Indian Valley, who was there at the time. Certainly, he has righted that ship.
Oh, my. I think we're spoiled in this area sometimes because we have 2 such outstanding coaches in Dan Ift and Matt Dennison. The things they've been able to accomplish, the things they've done with those kids, it's amazing. They don't necessarily have this Division I college recruit talent. They go out and they beat teams. They outwork them. From the mental standpoint, those kids are as prepared as any kids probably around the state of Ohio, and I would stand my chances with them anytime.
And Darren, I guess when you talk about the opponent on Friday night in Akron-Hoban, certainly that is a tough river to canoe down because they have got an extensive amount of talent. It's already been pretty well documented from stuff we've talked about on the radio, stuff you've written in the paper. They've got guys who can play Big Ten commits all over the place in their backfield and one of their wide receivers.
Right, and I think that makes New Philly then a dangerous team. They have nothing to lose. The kids are realists these days. They see all the media. They tweet each other. They probably know each other through tweeting and all the other social media, Bill. I expect New Philadelphia to come out with an outstanding game plan. I expect them to play hard. And the old saying goes, get me to the fourth quarter, guys, and maybe we can get it done. I would expect Coach Dennison and the coaching staff very much to want to have that game in their hands in the fourth quarter with a shot at beating Hoban. And I'll stand my chances with that group.
Now, Darren, having said all that, as we film this show, they're calling for rain on Friday night. Does rain, if it's of any extensive amount, does that benefit New Philadelphia? Does it benefit Hoban? What do you think?
That's a good question. I'm going to take us back to week 3. I think the best opponent New Philadelphia has had to get itself ready for this game is Maslin Perry. Big, strong offensive line. One of the best running backs in the state of Ohio, Keyshawn Sims. They held him in check. If you look at the stats going back, New Philadelphia held Keyshawn Sims about as good as he's been held all season. And the Quakers were right there, except 2 big pass plays hurt him. That game was played in some rain. I think the Quakers utilized what they learned, I think the defense learned a lot in that game, that they had to play hard every play and use Coach Dennison's motto of win every play, win the play in front of you. And I think the rain may be an equalizer, but I think the rain also benefits the Quakers. They're used to it.
Darren Lautenschlager from the Times reporter, their New Philadelphia Quaker football beat writer. Darren, certainly thanks for your time. We'll look forward to your coverage, previewing this game throughout the course of the week and your game story on Friday.
Thanks, Bill.
Coming up, as this week's edition of TV2 Sports Talk continues, we'll talk with WJER's Rob Brimley from our Football Friday Night crew about Indian Valley's opportunity on Saturday night and Sandy Valley doing battle at home on Friday night in their first ever playoff appearance, all when TV2 Sports Talk rolls on.
WJER and TV2 would like to introduce you to a new website, WJERTV2.com, where you can watch exciting high school football, soccer, and volleyball replays from TV2 Sports on your home computer, smartphone, or tablet. Also watch the latest episodes of TV2's original programming, Sports Talk, The Garden Girl, The Not So Shy Chef, Off the Record, and Medical Minutes, as well as catch up on local community news and search for local businesses. So make sure to check out the new WJERTV2.com community website where everything's local.
Hi, I'm Elaine Miller with Naturally Green Cleaning Service. My company serves both commercial and residential clients. We do general cleaning, spring and fall, empty homes to get them move-in ready, and final cleans for new construction. We use eco-friendly cleaning products that leave your home or office fresh, clean, and safe for you, your family, pets, or coworkers. Our focus at Naturally Green is to provide excellent customer service paired with outstanding work to build a relationship of trust with you, our clients. Having served the area 4+ years, we have had many referrals and testimonials that you can access on our website at www.naturallygreencs.com. Our work sells itself, therefore we have never had any contracts even with our largest commercial accounts. Call us today for your free quote and see what makes our company stand out.
You're watching TV2 Sports Talk on Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable. I'm WJER's Bill Morgan this week, previewing the high school football playoffs kicking off later in the week. Happy to be joined by Rob Brimley from our WJER Football Friday Night crew. Rob, we spent a good portion of the opening segment talking with Darren Lautenschlager about New Philadelphia headed into Division III action, and certainly one of the most impressive teams so far this year has been Indian Valley. They have ripped off 9 consecutive wins going into their Saturday night matchup, and Matt Lancaster has his team doing it again down in Janaden.
Bill, they are doing it just like you say. The amazing thing is everybody knows what the Braves are going to do, but they just line up and keep doing it. They will you to stop them. And then when they do, they average about 10, maybe 12 passes a game. And their quarterback, Brady Kotzmeyer, he can just throw the ball right over top of them. But he's so dangerous because he uses his legs just as much as he uses his arm.
Rob, you get an opportunity just about every week to talk with Coach Lancaster as a part of our Domino's Pizza Football Friday Night coverage. And probably not one of those conversations goes by without mentioning the name Ross Love.
Oh, Ross Love. He's a specialist on that team. Not only does he do the kicking, PATs, kickoffs, Bill, he handles punt returns, but he also is a running back and a receiver. He's become a wide open threat on that team because they line him up in the backfield. You don't know whether they're going to cover him by the run or they're going to toss to him out of the backfield. So Ross has really shown some speed on the team. That's something that the Braves had need. But he can be physical as well.
Rob, going into this year, the reality when you talked Indian Valley football was, how is this team going to perform offensively without Jake Davis? And I know we're headed into the postseason, and Braves fans are saying, we've already proven that, we've already overcome that, and that they have, but it was a legitimate question. You're talking about a guy who was top 10 rushing in the history of the state of Ohio, but Coach Lancaster and company have schemed that up and executed it well this year.
They've got the three-headed monster. You know, you got to throw Corey Carlisle in the mix, and 2 weeks in a row they had 3 100-plus yard rushers. So how do you cover the Braves? You can't just stack the line. And I thought they were running the read option there for a while, and that's Coach Lancaster, and he said that's not what we do. He said, of course, we throw that in once in a while, but that's not what we do. We just kind of line up, and if Corey has the option to take the ball, he'll take it, but he'll hand off to or make the quick pitch to Love or Corey Carlisle.
Rob, one of the teams we didn't get a chance to talk to Darren Lotschlager about was a team that was the IVC champion in the Ridgewood Generals. They lost only one game in the regular season this year, and as usual, John Slusser and company have it rolling down in West Lafayette.
They do, you know, and we call it every Friday night. We like to say we hashtag got Slussered because Coach Slusser says we're getting better. Well, this team has been phenomenal, especially on defense, Bill. They have pitched 4 shutouts in their last 8 games of the year. They only go up an average of 4 points per game in those 8 games, and they've scored 36. No longer can you just line up and stop the run. They've had Colton Alexander, who subbed in, as well as Trent Harrison for Jet Slusser, who got hurt at the quarterback position. But every one of those guys is capable, a la a touchdown pass at Garraway, the only score of the game, from Colton Alexander, who was lined up at quarterback. And that's something that they had practiced. Jet Slusser in another game, Bill, for 258 yards he threw for.
And interestingly enough, Ridgewood's opponent on Saturday night in that Division 5 matchup, really sort of from our area as well, as the Harrison Central Huskies, who have had one of their best seasons in school history, come calling at West Lafayette.
Well, the Huskies, you know, how do you line up and stop that team? That's a team who has lots of team speed. They feature that. They're also line up their smash mouth team. I've seen them throw a few times looking at their stats, but they're really not an over-the-top team. They really like to challenge you with a run.
Rob, when we talk about the fact that New Philadelphia is headed into the postseason for the 5th consecutive year, clearly one of the things that Matt Dennison's team wants to do is get that playoff monkey not only off their back, but off the school's back. They've never won the postseason, and boy, they'd love to go up 77 North on Friday night and shock the world at Hoban.
Boy, that's something that we would all love to have happen for New Philadelphia. It couldn't happen to a better team in New Philadelphia if they could get that monkey off their back. It's become almost the big 800-pound gorilla in the room. This team, though, Bill, has a lot of balance, and I think that's the key to this team. They're not strictly a running team. They're a passing team as well. And oh, by the way, I think they've got a pretty nice defense as well.
It is all coming up on WJER as a part of our Domino's Football Friday night coverage with Rob Bremley and Michael Roberts. That happens always before our official pregame show and play-by-play action. And coming up this Friday, Rob, you're going to wear a couple of hats. You'll be doing Domino's Football Friday night with Michael. And oh, by the way, you'll be doing play-by-play on the radio on the Sandy Valley matchup. You're going to be deep in study this week getting ready for the Cards.
Well, I've had the Cards line up. I know most of their players. Nothing excites me more than picking up on the momentum and the excitement up in Sandy Valley High School. You can feel it when we talk to Coach Gardner, but then you look at all the marks that they set this year, Bill. 9-1, best record ever in school history. Nelson Mosden, the quarterback who's a junior, set a record for touchdown passes and yards career so far. You know, what hasn't he done this year? He's got a long way to go yet, and just look at the weapons on that team. On the outside with Wagner and Finn. You can just keep going. Dre Bracken. They're just really, really about neck deep in talent.
And I guess it's hard to say, Rob, for sure at this time of the year when you head into the postseason. But I think when you look at the teams from this area and the matchups they face, whether you're talking the Quakers, Indian Valley, Sandy Valley, or Ridgewood and Harrison Central, I would cast my lot with Sandy Valley as a team who probably has the best opportunity to win in the opening round.
Bill, it's not for lack of effort on our teams, that's for sure. It's just the quality of the opponent that they're facing. And I would say that Sandy Valley probably does have, I agree with you, the best chance of moving on to a second round game. And they have nowhere to go but up. I mean, they've made the playoffs, they've done all the records, but they're hungry, they're not satisfied.
And you'll be able to hear that game with Rob and company on WJER.com and live audio here on Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable, a Friday night 7:30 kickoff. Coming up as this week's TV2 Sports Talk high school football preview continues, I'll talk with Jim Haynes from the Times Reporter, not only about that Sandy Valley matchup on Friday night, but the Indian Valley clash Saturday night at Kelly Field in Midvale. All when TV2 Sports Talk continues on DMG Channel 2.
Just wanting to be a police officer, I knew this was a great start, and it turned out to be a fantastic one.
Just be able to actually see what you're doing, what you're working on, and understand how you can take one thing and turn it into something else.
We got to creatively use skills and academics and see how we can place them into our fields.
It was pretty much I had the key to open the door, and that was from Buckeye.
Well, I woke up to the sound of silence and cars. We're cutting like knives in a fist fight. And I found you with a tear in your eye, your head in the curtains and heart like the 4th of July.
You swore and said, we are not shining stars. This I know. I never said we are. If you're lost and alone, or you're sinking like a stone, carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground. Carry on. Carry on, carry on. We are shining stars. Carry on, carry on. We are who we are.
TV2 Sports Talk, the high school football playoff edition, continuing on Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable. I'm Bill Morgan, happy to be joined by one of the sports writers from the Times Reporter, Jim Haynes. And Jim, when we look at both Sandy Valley and Indian Valley, the two valleys headed into the postseason, we'll start by talking about Zach Gardner's Sandy Valley Cardinals. They have done fantastic this year, 9-1. Their only loss coming to IVC competitor Ridgewood. I know you've had the privilege of seeing them a number of times, and you've been impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team is the real deal. Offense, defense, special teams, they've got the entire package. You know, a lot of people think, oh, well, they might be a fluke, you know, but listen, you don't go 9-1 in an IVC, you know, especially with the strength of the Garraways and the Ridgewoods, and, you know, even had some new Cumberstown sightings this year playing some good football. But they're the real deal, and I know they're looking forward to Friday night hosting their first ever playoff game in school history.
And Jim, when we talk about Sandy Valley, now I have not had the opportunity to see them this year, but one of the things I've heard is that they play the game with an attitude. And my understanding, really, when you look at football these days, not that some of the teams and some of the players that play the game, generally speaking, don't play it with a little bit of attitude, but I certainly don't think you get as much of that between the lines as maybe we saw back in the day when Jim and I were in high school.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Zach Gardner came into this season preaching to those kids, get in the weight room, get physical, and that work that those kids have put in the off season has translated to being a superior physical team on the field. And what has happened now is, you know, teams are wearing down in the early in the third quarter and, you know, late in the game. And not that Sandy Valley's had too many close games this year, but certainly they come out, they hit hard, they're intimidating, and they know what they're doing between the lines.
Jim Haynes from the Times Reporter, our guest on TV2 Sports Talk from DMG Channel 2 on Time Warner Cable. Tell us a little bit about certainly I think the player that's most recognizable to fans from Sandy this year, and Jacob Wagner. He tried to tutor Jim a little bit earlier in the year on kicking the ball, but Jacob can do it all: kicking, defense, offense.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a three-tool player, it is Jacob Wagner. All-Ohioan kicker a year ago, certainly will be up there again this year for that nomination. And I mean, the biggest thing to me, he can catch the football, he makes big plays on offense. He's certainly a great linebacker on defense, but the thing that separates him as a key player on this team is his ability to kick the ball. You know, a lot of high school teams don't have a legitimate kicker. I mean, they have a guy that can maybe kick a 30-yard field goal or whatever. This kid can boot it from 50, and more so on his kickoffs. I mean, consistently he is, you know, kicking him into the end zone, forcing the opposing offense to go 80 yards every drive, and that is a huge weapon for any team, but in particular Sandy Valley, who also has a very stout defense.
And Jim, when you talk about the edge for Coach Gardner's team in that department on special teams, we only have to go back to a game from a week ago, the Dover-New Philadelphia contest at the Quakers, and we've been talking about the Quakers in this week's show. Won big. But going into that game on Friday night, New Philadelphia's Lucas Gooding and Daniel Van Gilder for Dover, neither one of them had even attempted a field goal this year. Gooding had one that there was a penalty on the other team, so officially it didn't count. But this is where Sandy Valley, especially, Jim, it comes to playoff time, and it could well come down to a field goal. And Coach Gardner's got that weapon in his hip pocket. That could work big for the Cards.
Right, and he obviously is not going to be afraid to use that weapon if needed. And, you know, that's the nice thing. You know, say you get to the red zone or close to the red zone, you know, you can not have to worry about maybe necessarily going for it on a fourth down, like a critical fourth down play. You know you have Jacob Wagner out there that can come a field goal 50 yards and legitimately has a shot at making that from 50 yards. So a huge weapon for Zach Gardner and his Sandy Valley Cardinals.
Talking Sandy Valley and Indian Valley, and certainly the Braves, when you talk about what they've done this year, technically in terms of consecutive wins, Jim, they come in as the hottest team. They've won 9 straight games, and oh, by the way, their only loss was to Sandy Valley in Week 1.
Yeah, Week 1, you know, Indian Valley coming into this season had a lot of question marks. I know Matt Lancaster, head coach, knew what he had, but it's one thing to know what you have and then to see them perform. Week 1 was a real testing ground for Indian Valley, and they certainly turned things around after that. Haven't lost since Week 1, and they have a 3-headed offensive monster with quarterback Brady Kotzmeyer, running back Corey Carlisle, and then you also have versatile Ross Love, who special teams, offense, defense, he's all over the field. So they have a very good mix of talent out there. Defensively, they have Elijah Lancer, who is a beast to try to stop him, along with Alec Love, the top 2 leading tacklers on that team. Lancer comes in with 17 sacks, which is a school record for Indian Valley. You don't see that much in high school football, a player that has 17 sacks. So Indian Valley, just like Sandy Valley, they're the complete package.
And Jim, how important is it for Indian Valley playing at Kelly Field in Midvale on Saturday night and for the Cards playing at home Friday night? How important is that home field advantage?
Oh, absolutely important. Indian Valley's been there before. They know what it's like to have that home field crowd behind you and maybe kind of take the jitters out because you're in the confines of your own stadium. Sandy Valley, they're gonna have to overcome that first burst of adrenaline. You know, it might take that first big hit or that first big play to settle them in, but no doubt, especially in a format like this, home field is critical in round 1.
Jim Haynes from the Times Reporter. And Jim, as we wrap up, people can find you guys everywhere, FridayNightOhio.com and so many other places, Twitter. Tell us where they're most likely to track you guys and find out what's going on from the print media perspective.
Absolutely. Like you just mentioned, our daily production of the Times Reporter, we've always got game stories there. You can find us on Twitter. We're very prominent on Twitter, and as you mentioned, FridayNightOhio.com with plenty of highlights, player interviews, and game stories on there as well.
You've been watching the TV2 Sports Talk edition of our high school football preview show. Jim Haynes, along with Rob Brimley from the WJER Football Friday Night crew, and Darren Lautenschlager, the beat writer for the TR, and their New Philadelphia high school football coverage. All on your home for the best television coverage locally of high school sports, Channel 2 from Time Warner Cable.